Ladies and gentlemen, this is Judy, and today I know there was a delay, but I'm here with Dr. Opiyo, Dr. Marvin Opiyo, and Dr. Marvin Opiyo is an author of a book that all of you, I want all African immigrants, and also just not all African immigrants, I want anybody out there who can relate to a story of an immigrant, and that is the story of all Americans and other people elsewhere go through. Dr. Opiyo, can you introduce yourself and tell us more about this wonderful book that you wrote?
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Thank you for having me. My name is Marvin Opiyo. I have a slide here that I'm going to use to help to answer Judy's questions. So let me just put it up there to help answer her questions.
Okay.
Right, so the book is stuck here, African Immigrants Tell Their Stories, and my name is Marvin Opiyo, as Judy has said. And I was born and raised in a village called Kogelo in Kenya. Some of you might have heard of this village for some political reasons.
Yes, I have heard of it.
Right, and they have asked me if I'm the president's cousin and all that. And yes, I think maybe our grandparents were cousins. Anyway, I was educated at Maseno National School. Back then it was called Maseno National School, and it's close to Kisumu. After that, I joined Kenyatta University, where I graduated with a bachelor's in education. I taught school in Kenya for some time, high school, and then I went for further studies. I went to Riverside, California, La Sierra University. There, I obtained my master's degree in education, and I continued teaching school. Then I was also going to school at the same time. I got my doctorate in education. Including leadership and counseling. Now, when I was doing all this, I was also actively involved in church and community leadership in various capacities. And as a matter of fact, those of you who know about KAA, I was the founding chairman of KAA, Kenya American Association. This is a welfare organization that was established to help with the welfare of Kenyan immigrants in Southern California, in what we call the Inland Empire. We later expanded it to include all Kenyans anywhere. You can actually join even if you don't live in Southern California or in the Inland Empire. And yes, so that's a little bit about my background. Unless you want to know more, you can ask.
Yeah, no, I think that is quite detailed. As you can tell, Dr. Opiyo is well learned. Let's go to the next question.
Okay, before you go there, Jody, let me just add that I have a passion for teaching. I've been a teacher at all levels, middle school, high school, college level, and currently I'm back to high school. So, yes.
So my next question is, what motivated you to write this book?
Right. So motivation for writing this book is, as we have already said, I am an immigrant, and in my immigrant community, I have met a lot of different kinds of immigrants. I have met African immigrants who are very successful in America, in California and other parts of America. Correct. I've also met those who are surviving, they're making it okay. But unfortunately, I've also met some who are really struggling. Okay. And to be honest, I had, my son was little when we moved here, and we used to go by, Dr. Wilson was my chemistry professor at La Sierra, and he was a good friend. We used to stop by on our way to our little apartment. We'd stop by his parents' condo and say hi to them. So Grandma Wilson became like Nicholas's grandma. And she was happy when we stopped by, but at the same time, she was very sad and asking and regretting why little Nicholas is growing up so many miles away from his real biological grandma. And that got me, all of this combined got me wondering sometimes, what am I doing here? And so I thought the best way to get to understand was to find out from my fellow African immigrants, what are they doing here? What made them come over to the United States? And how has it been for them here in relation to how it was back home? And is it the way they expected it to be? And it was an interesting journey, and I'm glad I did this because everybody has a different story and there are compelling stories in the book.
What are some of the things you went through as you wrote this book?
Right. The most obvious one is time. When I first came here, my friends told me that people don't sleep in America. It's almost literally true. So you go to work, you go to school, you go to work, sometimes 2-3 jobs.
Yes.
And so to write this, at the time I was doing research, I was also, involved in all these leadership positions that I've talked about, and being a full-time father, husband, teacher, leader in the community. So time was the biggest thing. But I look back and I'm sometimes wondering, how did I manage to sit down and put it together? That's another question that many people have asked. The first time that my colleagues at work were told that I published this book, they were like, how long did it take you? That's a question everybody asks. Yes, and how long does it take you? And it takes time because of the reasons that I just stated. Next problem was to get a good feel of what is actually motivating people to come over here. It needed to at least talk to several people. So I talked to almost 20 people.
Okay.
And getting to survey all of them and then sit down and make sense of what they're saying and put it in, because I realized also that writing is very different from talking.
So, like totally, yes. There are two different things, yes. And I think that is what a lot of people struggle with, the writing aspect of it. I think most of us are very good talkers, but when it comes to sitting down and putting it on paper, that is where you guys, we give you all the credits we can.
Well, thank you. I give my subjects the credits also because, they made it easier by talking candidly and clearly. And so to put that together and to get all these people interviewed and their stories written down in a way that is publishable wasn't easy, because some of them also lived out of state. So I had to travel, go interview them.
Okay.
And, some of them are high profile Kenyans, and if you get the book, you will get to read and appreciate their stories. So traveling out of state to go interview them and then put it down and take it back to them, they need to approve that this is what actually they said. So
getting an accurate, event of things.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that takes time. And then, of course, if you are not known in the publishing world already, it's very difficult to get a publisher.
Yes, so, extremely difficult. How did you do it? Right.
So I am very fortunate that if you look at the book cover, it says "Forward" by Ngugi wa Thiong'o. So everybody knows Ngugi wa Thiong'o.
Yes.
I went to UC Riverside when they were having a writers fair. They are helping beginning writers, and they looked at my book and they're, oh, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, you don't need any help. They dismissed me like that.
Well, that is nice, Ngugi. So, that is nice.
I'm very grateful for the distinguished professor for taking his time to write the foreword, and he did it very well, as you would expect of him. Right, and of course, all these problems that we have talked about, they lead to profound discouragement and self-doubt. So you keep doubting yourself and thinking, who am I to publish a book? I don't need to do that. But somehow there are some people who had seen what I was doing, and they kept insisting that it has to be published. This has to be published. One of them was the late Dr. Audrey Howard,
Yes.
who was publishing director at Loma Linda. So I'm very grateful for her posthumously for insisting that this has to be published. Yes.
And I know a lot of us as African immigrants, we don't publish a lot. So for you to really make that step into publishing, definitely we must, commend your efforts, a lot.
Thank you. It took a lot of encouragement from people who cared.
Yes. So my next question is, what will people learn from reading your book? Now, people out there, I want you guys, Africans, I want you guys to really go buy this book, because you know what? I think we are used to reading other people's books, but I'm glad we as Africans are beginning to write. We are beginning to say our story from our mouthpiece. So this is relevant, and this makes us know we can only do this if we can support the efforts by you getting the book so you can read. So just in summary, without going into details, because I want people to read the book,
Right.
What will people learn about reading your book?
Right. So they will find out why people are stuck here, so to speak. And I find that there is, of course, everybody knows that there's political instability in many African countries. There is some change taking place, which is positive, but in the most part, there has been political instability.
Yes.
There is war and strife, which has driven some people out of their countries. You'll find some of the subjects that are here primarily because of that. When I was beginning my study, I thought I was going to be talking to people who just came here to go to school, but that ended up not being the case. There are those who are driven out by war. There has been looting of public funds, leading to, there being quality of life is deplorable in some cases. And this leads to people having no jobs, and they resort to crime and violence, and also lack of educational opportunities. And so you find that Africans sacrifice a lot to get out of the continent and go find a better life elsewhere. And then, as one subject told me, that when you get here, sometimes you find it is not that great. Like so yes, so if you get the book and read, you will find out why it is not that great, and also in areas where it is great. I'm not saying that it is negative here. There's good, there's bad, and so it's good to read the book and find out. And
because when you come from Africa, you have this image of America as the land of honey, milk and honey,
Right.
So when you reach here, and then it's a whole different story.
It's a whole different story, yes. So this would be very good reading. I would recommend it for anybody who wants to come to America before they leave, or go to Europe before they leave home, to go through this.
Absolutely.
So that, not to discourage them, but just to know what to expect. Right.
Yeah.
And
I think that is key for people to really go read this book, because that illusion is not, it is there, but it's also not easily. You don't pluck money from the trees. You work really hard. So if you read these books, it will give you a head start if you want to migrate to America.
Right, so at least you're prepared for it. So now I have a few more slides to go to illustrate what we just discussed here.
Okay, go through.
Yeah, so the first one is limited educational opportunities back in Africa. This is an example of a school in a southeastern African country that will remain nameless for now, but it's a real school. Yeah, so you could see how the kids are anxious to learn and their teacher is dedicated, but you see that they don't have the facilities.
No, they
So,
don't.
yeah, my personal belief is that there is enough money and resources in Africa to make the schools better, but for some reason we are not doing it yet. And that's an example of a school. I'm sorry, I have named it Zimbabwe
Zimbabwe.
because there is a documentary that has just been recently made of Zimbabwe, and it shows kids in school and the principal going there to send them home because they have not paid tuition and all that. And you can understand how the kids are thirsty for education. The principal cannot run the school without the funds, and therefore, is sending them home. It's just heartbreaking. I think
It is quite heartbreaking.
I think we can do better, and we should do better.
Absolutely.
And then there is war and strife. As you can see, the menace of child soldiers, children who should be in school are out there fighting in one place or other for a cause that they probably don't even understand, but they're forced to do that. And the cancer of corruption.
Oh, yes.
The cancer of corruption.
Yes. That is big.
The people
That is the
beginning to
biggest in
protest.
Africa right now.
Mhm. So those are some of the reasons why people feel that they're stuck here.
Okay.
If you look at the cover of the book, it will tell the whole story. So if you look at I want you to look at the cover of the book and find out what it speaks to you without me saying it.
Now, where can people get this book? If somebody wanted to buy it in summary, where can they go get this book?
Okay, so all right, I'm gonna go to that.
Okay.
But I wanted the viewers to have a look at that, the greasing of hands. That if you want to do business in many African countries, you have to grease hands. Even if you are motivated to do business, it gets discouraging. By the time you establish your business, you have little or no profit left. All right. That little video shows something about crime and violence, that they can look at it later on YouTube. It's a YouTube video.
Okay.
Right. Now, as many of us have already probably read about it and heard about it, that it's not easy getting out of Africa. So African immigrants go through a lot.
Yes.
Not just getting to the US, but trying to get across the Mediterranean into Italy, Spain, and other Southern European countries. It's under subhuman conditions.
True.
And if I was an African leader, I would be very embarrassed, and I would want to change things. So I hope they want to change things. If you see your citizens going to another person's country, and then being called the SH countries, you can see why we subject ourselves to that kind of humiliation. So we as Africans can do better and change the situation. Both the Africans who are here in the diaspora and Africans back home, and those in politics, those in civil service and civil society, I think we can and we should change it. So the message is, as you asked me, what is the message? I realize that for most Africans, once they settle down here, they are very successful in their business, education, medicine, and whatever it is. I think you're an example of a very successful African here. I think I'm doing very well in my teaching and in my writing.
You're doing very well, just not in teaching, but in everything.
Thank you. In my writing and all that, people who have read it, they have told me it's very well done. So, why is it that we are struggling back home? And I think that we can do better at home if we are given the right environment. Somebody once said, I read it somewhere, one of these pundits that write in opinion ed columns in the big newspapers like New York Times or the Boston Globe, I don't remember which newspaper, but they said his grandpa beat your grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no question about the intellectual capability of Africans and all that. We are just as good as anyone else.
That's true.
But his grandpa created a system where there is checks and balances. If something is going wrong, then there is a way to check it and to stop it. And we need to do that with our systems. And then once we put it in place and respect that. And yes, we can thrive here. We can thrive at home just as much as we are thriving elsewhere.
Yeah, and if the systems can change, that will help a lot. If the African systems can change, and you know what, it's not going to take much. It's just a matter of somebody not thinking me, myself, and I, and people looking at it and saying for all of us. And you can see across Africa where now we are going through a second colonization by the Asians because one or two people are taking all the bribes and not thinking about the big picture of the people. And that is one reason why we come here looking for a better life, looking for a better opportunity, because our politicians sometimes don't give us that opportunity, but they take it for their own immediate families.
Right. Yes, so it gives credence to the people who are insulting us and saying we are coming from SH countries because we are here. There's a testimony to their claims of superiority. And so we need to think and make things change and make things different, make it better. So yes, now I can go to the question that you just asked me.
The question that asks, how can people get hold of your book? And guys, I want you to go buy the book. I want you to read the book, because I want us to come back and really come back on this forum and talk about the book and discuss candidly, or after you buy it and read it, we can have a book discussion on the outcomes in the book. So go ahead, Dr. Opiyo.
Thank you. So the book is available now, just like they say in advertising books, Stuck Here is available now. That means it's available everywhere books are sold. It's available on barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com. I have a few copies here if you live in Southern California. And all other online bookstores, pretty much you'll find it in all other online bookstores. I must say, however, that because of COVID-19, the release of the book just coincided with the outbreak of COVID-19 in the US. So that really set us back.
Okay.
But
maybe I think it may not have set you back, because honestly, viewers, this is what I think. I mean, a lot of us are stuck home, so this is a great opportunity to buy the book and read.
Buy the book and read when we're at home. Yes,
exactly.
Yes, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it, why I was saying that, is that if you go to Amazon to make an order,
yes,
it might tell you it will take 2 to 4 weeks to get there, and some people are impatient; they don't want to wait that long. So when I ask them, they say it's because of the COVID-19 situation. That's why they cannot produce them quickly and ship them quickly, because of delivery issues and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, that is why COVID-19 is a problem mainly. But I know also some people who have bought the book and they got it. Some people finished reading already got some very positive feedback.
Okay.
And yes, so if you are out of, I don't know who is watching you may be in Europe. If you're in Europe, you can get your copies from England and Germany. It is being published there also. It's printed in Germany and England. And we are still looking for a publisher in Africa. We don't have one yet. So if you have some publishing connections, yes, I'd like to talk with you. And
African publishers, this is a great book. So get in touch with us.
Opportunity.
What I'm gonna do is, as you watch on Facebook, we'll give you the contacts on how to get hold of Dr. Opiyo. So that we can get it published in Africa. It's a shame that it's not published in Africa, because you know what, we need Africa. We need to start supporting our own, and that is when the world is going to look at us as really people. Otherwise, they will always look at us in a negative way.
Just not yet, but it's going to be there soon, hopefully. Yeah. So far, people from Africa will get their orders coming from England and Germany.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other thing you think we have missed, so that our viewers can, any other information you think our viewers need to know?
I think we have covered pretty much most of it. If there is any questions, you say you're going to provide my email and the phone number. They can call me or text me by WhatsApp, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Right now, I'd just like to thank you very much for this chance to dialogue with your followers on Facebook and on Zoom. And also, I'd like to express my gratitude to people who have helped me along the way. Like I said, Professor Ngugi Wathiongo, Dr. Howard Heath posthumously, Dr. Mario Nyango, Dr. Rute Buka, Dr. Mtombeni in South Africa, Dr. Demo. They provided a lot of mentoring, which was helpful. My brother Baruch in Cyprus. All the subjects who participated in the study. My family here for their support, putting up with me when I'm writing, because I don't want interrupted. And everyone really who has been positive and encouraging. So thank you very much.
So everybody, as I'm just going to repeat, Dr. Marvin Opiyo, author, Stuck Here, African Immigrants Tell Their Story. So check it out on Amazon. Barnes and Nobles, and any other bookstore. And let's support our brother by buying this book, everybody, okay? Let's support and share this video to all your friends, because I want everybody from the continent, from Kenya going over to South Africa and Nigeria, to be able to buy and read this book. This is a great motivation for you to get, especially those people I'm training. I know I have 400 people in my class who want to migrate. You definitely want to buy this book, because it's going to give you a head start on what to expect once you get here. Thank you so much. And
if I could just add that the perspectives shared in there, they cover everywhere, across the continent, from Nigerians, Ghanaians, South Africa, Kenya, Southern Africa, everywhere. So it's not just regional, but it's very inclusive.
It's very inclusive across the continent.
Exactly.
And also, if you're just an immigrant from anywhere else, the experiences don't change. They actually are the same. So if you're coming in from Mexico or coming in from any other place, check this book out. And after you buy it, I want to follow up with you, Dr. Opiyo. We'll try to do another, more interactive seminar, where at least today we were introducing the book, where we can have another interactive seminar once people have bought, and we can talk details about the book. Like, we have an overview of the book. Thank you, everybody, and good night, California time. Thank you.
Thank you.